graph each equation. Okay, that's the first thing you're instructed to do. The second thing you're instructed to do is label each vertex, label the vertex in the axis of symmetry, and find all the intercepts. Okay, we've tried to figure out the first two items, and the intercepts is a little bit new, but it's the easiest part of this. Now, if you're unsure of what your definitions are, they're right here on the front, so whenever you're doing this later, you can refer back to that, okay? So, the equation they give you is this. Y equals 4x, negative 4x squared. You guys see that? Okay, y equals negative 4x squared. You're thinking that that doesn't quite look like the y minus k equations that I've been talking to you about. But if you plug in a k and an h and replace them then with the zeros that there is no k, there is no h, they didn't give you any, then you can determine a few pieces of information about this equation. The first thing you can determine is that the vertex is at 0, 0. Why? Because k doesn't have a value, nor does h. Okay? That's the first thing you can determine. The second thing you can determine from all of this information is that it is a downward sloping parabola. I know this because my a value is negative 4. Okay? Since my a value is a negative number, I know it's downward. Which is why when I began drawing it, I drew it, and it looks kind of like a cross, but I drew it like that. Okay? I placed my 0, 0 right there. Okay? Placed my 0, 0, my dot right there. 0, 0 is the vertex, okay, which is the top or the bottom of the parabola, depending upon if it's going up or down. So, in this case, it happens to be the top of the parabola, okay? Everybody with me so far? You guys okay? Now, if I slice it down the middle, I have just identified the location of the axis of symmetry, okay? Because this, if I slice right here, will create a mirror on the right and on the left. All right? Alan, stay with me, buddy. You guys, I'm expecting this turned in with everything else done as well. Okay? So, I then create a T-chart where I can fill in some points. Remember, x is equivalent to the h location in this scenario. K is equivalent to the y location. Okay? Okay. I want to graph some more points. Well, to be more specific, they want to know my intercepts. Okay? And I don't know if you remember this from the pre-algebra book, but this, I actually just covered this with those guys. Where x is equivalent to 0, the y value will be the intercept. Okay? In the same way, where y is equivalent to 0, the other value will be the x-intercept. Okay, so this one's a little unique in that the vertex is at the origin. It crosses the y-axis at 0. It crosses the x-axis at 0. Therefore, the two intercepts are 0 and 0. Okay? 0 and 0. So far, so good, guys? Hope so. Any questions up to this point? Okay? All right. I can't graph a parabola with just a single dot, so I'm going to solve for some other items. I chose a nice, easy number. I chose 1. Okay? I plugged in 1 for x, and I kind of did it over here. 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4, which means, up here, when x is 1, y has to be negative 4. Okay? So, when x is 1, y is negative 4. There it is. You guys seeing that? Knowing how parabolas work, I also found the mirror image. The mirror image of 1 one, negative 4, is the one that's on the other side of the axis, which happens to be that. Okay? So to answer the questions, first off, it says graph it, which we've done. Second off, it says label the vertex. Label the axis, which I usually use a highlighter and go down the middle with a dotted line. And finally, it says give me the intercepts. The intercepts are 0 and 0 because the vertex is at the origin. Okay? Any questions on this item? All right. I did number 3 next. Okay. Number 3. If you look at number 3, y minus 2 equals negative x squared. Everybody see that? You may think this is not exactly a y minus k scenario, but we can turn it into one rather easily. If I factor the 1 out of the x squared and then create a 0 in the h position, because since there's nothing here, that's what that means, I now am able to uncover my vertex. My vertex is 0, 2. Okay? My vertex is 0, 2. I also know that my parabola goes down because the a value is a negative value. Okay? My a value is a negative value. So I have graphed my vertex right here. I have dotted line through my axis. The axis where it gets cut in the middle is 0. And the last step is to find some more points, right? This one is a little trickier than the last one, but it's not terrible, I promise you that. Okay? There's my vertex, right? It also happens to be my y-intercept. How do I know that? Because the parabola touches the y at 2. I still need to solve for my x-intercepts. And what you learned up here, if x is 0, the other value or values are going to be the y-intercepts. And where y is 0, the other value or values will be the x-intercepts. Okay? So if I plug in zeros for y, it's going to look like this. Right over here. I know that's a little bit small. So, the equation y minus 2 equals negative 1x squared. Okay? Negative 2 equals negative x squared. I want to draw your attention to something. This one's a little bit unique. You might think, okay, the square root of negative 2 is I negative 2. How is that going to help me when I need to graph something? Well, since both of them are the opposite of 2 is the opposite of x squared, you can eliminate the negative in both of those so that you're able to actually come up with real numbers. Okay, you're going to get a correct answer. They're both the same sign, remove it. X squared is 2, so x must be plus or minus the square root of 2. Okay, in order to graph something, I have to have numbers. So positive square root of 2 came up with something like this. Negative square root of 2 came up with something like that. Okay? Therefore, your intercepts are here and here. Okay? Your intercepts are here and here, and there's your parabola. Okay? So to answer their questions, they wanted to know what my vertex is. We already know what my vertex is. It's my h and my k values. We put our vertex in our graph, we labeled it. We drew a dotted line down the middle to slice it into two mirror images, and that is located at 0. We then plugged in values of 0 for y and came up with the two x-intercepts. If you only came up with one, you wouldn't have a parabola. Okay? Look at that for a minute. What in there can I help you with? Please, tell me now. Okay. Number 5. Same pattern. We're going to do it over and over the same way. Number 5 is y equals x minus 1 squared. This doesn't look like y minus k. Well, if we realize that k has 0 as a value, which is why it's not even listed, we can determine that 1, 0 is our vertex. We can also determine that our cup goes upward because our a value is a positive number. And I make a point of that because it helps me to draw my graphs a lot easier and save space. So, there's my vertex. 1, 0. Dotted line down the middle indicates my axis. Okay? Incidentally, that location is not only the vertex, but it is the location where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Remember, the right-left axis is the x, the up-down axis is the y. Okay? 1, 0 is not only the vertex, but it is the x-intercept. Okay? Let's find our y-intercept. In order to do that, set x. Where am I? Lost my place. Lost my place. Set x as 0 and solve. So if x is 0, it's going to be y equals, I kind of simplified it there, but I want to show it to you in case you get nervous, 0 minus 1 squared, right? If x is 0. Which brings me to here. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1 is 1, okay? There's my y-intercept. Y-intercept is located at 1. Incidentally, I'm able to find another point using that, which is the mirror image. I now have my 3 points, and I now can graph my parabola. 3 points is the minimum. Sometimes you're going to come up with more just in solving all those answers. And I believe the next one is one of those such situations, possibly. Okay? Did you guys get this all copied? All your steps? You okay, Ellen? Okay, moving on. Here's 8. Or 7. Notice I'm skipping some, okay? I'm mostly skipping evens, so obviously those are for you. 7. 7 is y minus 4 equals negative 3x plus 2 squared. This fits the bill perfectly. This is your k value. This is your h value. Plugging them in gives you your vertex. Okay? When I draw my t-chart now, I've been including the h and the k just for simplicity's sake so that I don't make any errors. Vertex is 2, 4. Negative 2, 4, I should say, which is floating up here. I also know it's a downward parabola because of the negative 3 in the A position. Since the negative 3 is in the A position, it goes down. That's why I drew my graph the way I did. Okay? This one takes a little more work. This is neither the x-intercept nor the y-intercept. The other ones, we got one right off the bat. So, in order to solve for the intercepts, plug in 0 for one value, the other value is an intercept. So the first one I did was the y-intercept, right here. Where x is 0, the other value is the y-intercept. Okay? Negative 3 multiplied by 2 squared, which is 4, gave me negative 12. Okay, right there. Adding 4 gave me a negative 8. Therefore, my y-intercept is located way down here at negative 8. Okay? I can also use that to draw a mirror image. And you might say, well, wait a second, now that's enough for a graph. It is, but those aren't the x-intercepts. I still need to identify the x-intercepts. Vertex is up here, x-axis, or the axis is there. X-intercepts. Plug in y as 0. Okay? Whatever you get for x will be your x-intercept. Here we go. Looks something like this. You're thinking, wait, how did you get from here to here? Well, instead of distributing, foiling, and trying to solve it from there, the preferred method to do this is to divide out the coefficient of this scenario, which brings that negative 3 under that 4 and makes it positive. Okay? That is the easiest way to do this. So now I have 4/3 equals x plus 2 squared. Find the square root of both, which now looks something like that, leads me to this. What I did here, folks, is I took this, simplified it. Negative 4, right? That becomes 2. If you don't remember this, here's a brief review. Got to rationalize the radical, which gives me 2 radical 3 over 3. Those steps there is how I came to this. Okay? I subtracted 2 so that I have x by itself. Okay? And remember, the square root of something is a positive and a negative. So I got the real number for whatever 2 radical 3 by 3 is. You can do that with your calculator. And I rounded it, came up with 1.15. Okay? The x-intercepts, therefore, are located at negative 2 plus 1.15, which is this, and negative 2 minus 1.15, which is that. Okay? Moving back up to the graph so you can actually see it. There's your x-intercepts. I included them in my little t-chart just for organization, and they're right there. Okay? There's 2 of them because a parabola has 2 arms, either going up or down, or in some cases sideways. That's 7. This is some of the toughest part right here, where you'll forget that there are 2 roots, a positive or a negative. You need both of them when there are 2 intercepts. Okay? X's are usually part of that. Okay. Moving on to number 11. I skipped a couple more. Moving on to number 11. What can we tell right off the bat by looking at number 11? This is the last one in that group. What we can tell right off the bat is we have our K and our H values. Negative 1, negative 2. And we have whether or not our thing goes up or down. Okay? So I went ahead and graphed my vertex. And it is right there. Make a dot better. Right there. There's my vertex. The vertex being located at negative 1, negative 2 means the little dotted line goes right through the middle. Therefore, the axis is located at negative 1. Okay? We've found our vertex, we've found our axis. Now we need to find some more points, particularly points that will give us our intercepts. Y-intercept and x-intercepts. Okay, so I'm going to do y first. Where x is 0 The other value is the y-intercept. I already know it's this, but I'm going to show you the math. Okay, here it is. If you plug in 0 right here, 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, that's how I got there, for sake of time and space. Okay, 1 squared is 1, half of that is half of that. Subtract 2, you get a single y value, negative 1.5, negative 3 halves, okay? So that is my y-intercept. I can also use that to find a mirror image, which I didn't list over here, but you could clearly see it's negative 2, 1.5. Oh yeah, I did right here, mirror image. Okay, those are my y, that's my y-intercept. Finally, I need my x-intercepts. X-intercepts
Amber, Heartline, and Tori Ewers to the office, please.
Are solved by finding what y will be when x is 0. Okay, so if y is 0, you get a 2. See, 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 plus 1/2 of x plus 1 squared. Okay. A couple problems back, I said the most convenient way to do this is not to distribute, but rather to divide out this item preceding the square. Can't divide by a fraction, so you multiply by its reciprocal, which is why I ended up 4 is equal to x plus 1 squared. Square root of x plus 1 is equal to the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2 and negative 2. Therefore, your x-intercepts, negative 2 minus 1 right there, and negative 2 minus 1 right there. Using both the positive to give you this and the negative to give you that. Intercepts are here and here, and you're done. You've given me your axis, you've given me your vertex, you've given me your intercepts. Okay? 2 more, guys. This is the stuff that you haven't been taught yet, and you're going to think, oh, great, a new thing. It is not hard at all. The instructions for 12, 13, and 14, I'm doing 12 and 13 with you, and example 3 is your other sample. So not only do you have the answer to this in a few minutes, and the answer to that in a few minutes, but you have this sample as well to help you do 14. Okay, here we go. The question for 12, 13, and 14 is find an equation in that form for each parabola described. Okay, number 12, they say the vertex is 0, 6, and it passes through or contains the point 1, 3. You can find that information right on your worksheet. I'm simply reading it to you. So, step 1, plug in the vertex into the equation. 0 being your h value. Okay, there's the information they gave me. 0 is your h value. 6 is your k value. So now I have the equation y minus 6 equals a, x minus 0 squared. I'm not done. Final step. Plug in the points that they've given you and solve for a. Okay, they have told me that this equation hits this spot, so I am going to plug in this for x and that for y and solve. Okay, 1 minus 0 squared, so 1 minus 0 is 1, 1 squared is 1, 1 times a. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. Therefore, a's value must be negative 3. Okay, so I have all the values necessary. I had my k value because they gave me the vertex. I had my h value of 0 because they gave me the vertex. You don't need to write that minus 0h. Okay? And this is the most simplest form of that. You're done. Negative 3 is your a value. We just solved it by plugging in the points. Example 13, last one, same exact thing, same exact steps. Find an equation that has a vertex of 2, 3, and goes through points 1, -2. First step, plug in the vertex, H and K. H, K. Daniel? You now have something that looks like this. Plug in the points they gave you. Here, and there's your Y. Here, there's your X. Solve for A. So I now have an A value of -5, a K value of 3, and an H value of 2. Plugging all that in, this is your answer. These steps, oh, and here's the summary. Once you have your value for A and once you have your value for K and H, which is this, solve for A, which is that, which you use these points to get, then you can simply create your equation. And that is literally what they tell you in example 3. That's all.